I'm having a little bit of a silly hair day, but that cannot possibly stop me from doing a Writer's Life vlog. Hello there, writerly friend. Welcome back to my weekly Writer's Life, #Writer's Life vlog, where I talk about my own personal process, what I've been up to, as well as offering writing advice and inspiration along the way. My preview window is on the wrong monitor today, so I'm like, where am I? You see me here, but I see me here as well. But anyhow. Silliness out of the way, this time around I have a really quick update as well as a very interesting subject. Today we're going to be talking about titles. How do I come up with titles? That and much more coming to you relatively soon, like right now. There, I moved my preview window. Now everything is as it should, except for my hair, which is extra silly today. What was my week? Other than work, and also releasing a book. Yay, I released it last week and I had to take care of all the after-release stuff. A quick hotfix / quick patch just to fix a little bit of a coding thingy, but it's all done and taken care of. I always hate surprises like that. I just hate surprises in general, but at least it was taken care of relatively quickly and it didn't take much of my time. As for the rest of my week, I actually decided to spend a little bit of time with my best friend Kirin, and I also took like one day off just to recharge because release weeks are super stressful. I have to get back into writing, and I wanted to get back into writing with a full battery, and I'm ready now. I'm definitely feeling it. Probably as soon as I finish editing this video, I'm back into action. So as to what I'm going to be working on, I can't tell you just yet. Shh, it's a secret, but you will know in due time. Stop messing with my hair. That was pretty much my week though. Just working, finishing things related to work, tossing them out there into the world, recharging my writerly battery so that I can jump back into the action relatively soon. So that's me. Not very exciting, I know, but that's what happens whenever I'm not really writing. I don't have much to talk about in regards to characters and silly moments and such. So let's actually move over to the main subject of today's video. I recently got a kind of really small casual question, but it was one of those things where like, it's been forever since the last time that I actually tackled this question in a video, so I thought, let's actually sit down formally and address this one more time. The question goes a little bit like this. The hardest thing about writing for me is coming up with titles. What's the easiest way to come up with a creative title that goes with the story? Oh man, this right here is a classic question, and one that I've been answering for years in the blog, so I'm excited to cover it one more time for all of you new followers or long-time followers. Let's cover this one more time. How do I come up with titles? Well, for me, there are two ways that I go about doing things. The first way is pretty much the way that 80% of my stories go. In the act of brainstorming the story, I find myself tossing words around or thinking of character dialogue or particular elements in the story, and through the act of this rather strange imaginary alchemy, words jump at me. Words or phrases that belong in this world or in characters' mouths, they jump at me, and I usually take them and if it's cool enough, I just immediately keep them and just lock them in as the title. Now, I will touch on this more later. I do not always keep this as the ultimate title, as the final title for the story, because things change, but generally for me, 80% of the time, in the act of brainstorming, a title jumps at me. Whether it's a phrase, a single word, a term, anything, it jumps at me and I just go, that sounds super cool, let's keep it. Now, as for the second method of doing things, it's a little bit more involved, but I find that it happens sometimes, and when it does, or when the original title that I came up with is not very effective, or at the end of writing I realized, you know what, this doesn't fit as well as I thought it would fit, what I like to do is this. Once I am in the middle of the revision process, and by that I mean I've read the story a couple of times, at least once, and of course, side note, remember that when you're revising your story, let it sit for a long while, a couple of weeks at the very least, so when you read it again, you read it with new eyes. And it is with this mindset that you are able to look at the story once you're done reading it and ask yourself, what is this story actually about? And with that question in mind, you can come up with a pretty interesting title by considering elements in the story, melding them together, looking for a phrase, a series of words, or just a simple word that describes your story as a whole. While I do say that 80% of the time I come up with the title from the beginning, there are times in which this title that I came up with is not anywhere near as effective as the second title that I come up with. Because again, why? Writing is the act of discovery, so it's really hard to come up with a really solid idea that works 100% of the time from the get-go. And all of this is actually entirely okay. Unless that is, if you're publishing your story in like a chapter basis on like a website or in your blog, in that case you may actually want to start up with a pretty cool title. As for everyone else, and by that I mean people who just write the whole story, revise it, and then look to publish it online or send it to an agent and so forth, I do completely recommend reading the whole story once you have let it sit after a long while and asking yourself, what is this story about? What is this story actually about? As I've mentioned previously, while I do sometimes start up with a pretty cool title from the get-go, sometimes I do find myself going back to the drawing board and asking myself, hey, is there a better title for this? Is there something that resonates with the feelings of this story a lot better? A phrase, a collection of words, or just a single word? I can't tell you, like, this is the formula for making titles, because if there was such a thing, it would be pretty boring because it would follow a formula. There's one title for your story and you can find that. You just have to dig in, search through the pieces, and ask yourself, what is the story actually about? Now, before I go, there is one more thing I want to say, and it is something that a lot of people probably have already realized, but I want you to be aware of it and understand. And that thing is that placeholder names are entirely okay. There is nothing wrong with placeholder names, especially if you're doing that thing where you write the whole thing and then come up with a title. A placeholder name is entirely okay. Like, half of the volumes that I have already written for Mercenary Hearts, their titles I come up with after the fact, after I was done editing, and in my Evernote I have them just as MH1, MH2, MH3, MH4. Mercenary Hearts, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, and so forth. An acronym, a code name, a placeholder name, those are all entirely okay, especially when you're in the middle of writing. So there you have it. Those are my two ways that I go about creating titles. Sometimes I stick to one, sometimes I mesh them both together to create the best title possible. Titles, much like pretty much every element in your story, like names, particular facts, whatever it is, these can all be changed during the revision draft. Nothing is set in stone, and remember, as always, that the first draft is merely just the first draft and nothing else. You're gathering the clay from which you will mold the story. A placeholder title is entirely okay. Don't sweat it, don't worry too much, there will be time for an amazing title in due time. For the time being though, I want to thank you for watching. I want to know how your week has been going. Have you been writing? Have you been working on stuff? Are you publishing a story online? How do you come up with titles? Let us all know in the comments down below, as well as any questions you may have for future videos. Again, for the time being, thank you for watching, thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I'll see you on the next one.